Hello everybody, this is Abraham with North Shore Computer Services, and what we got here is a Mac Mini, and what we're gonna do is do the memory upgrade on it. Mac Minis are always tricky to open up, so I'm gonna show you how to do memory upgrade on this Mac Mini. This is 2018 and the code on it is A1993. Okay, if you have your Mac Mini Apple logo facing you, you just flip it this way so that when it says Mac Mini, you can read it. So it's right side up. This will mean that there are three holders to this bottom panel. In the older Mac Minis, you twist them. On this one, you just pop it off. And I do believe, okay, the upper one is right on top of the Mac Mini. And you just use a case opener tool and pop this open. Or you can use a screwdriver, put a little tape on it. As you can see, these are just clips. So we have 3 screws that are big to remove and 3 that are small. These are special screws. They are security screws, meaning that a regular T6, gotta talk about tools. We're gonna need 2 types of tools. So this is a TR6 and this is a T6, and there's a bigger one inside. So we need several tools from this set, which is T, regular hex, and the security. Security has a little hole inside of the actual tool, and without the hole you cannot put a regular T6 into the screws. It just spins, won't work. So we use these to pull out the bigger screws. And we use the same one to pull out the smaller screws. By the way, they are interchangeable. The only thing you need to make sure is that, in other words, I mean, you can put them anywhere on this circle. You have to make sure that they are spaced so that the cover can go on. And the cover can go on sideways, this way, upside down. But you take it apart, you kind of put it back together the same way, so that the big screw goes over here. You can use a marker and just mark it. And we just lift the cover and we slide it off. There is a little screw inside here, and that one is also T6. You can use TR, I'm sorry. You can use TR to open T, but you cannot use T to open TR. All right, this is the antenna cable. So we remove the screw for the antenna cable, and we're going to just get that cable out of there. And it is held by a regular antenna connector there. All right, as most of you know, this will come out, but we have to make it come out by detaching some things and removing some screws. This is the fan, and it has to come off. We got 2 screws that are holding the fan down and 2 that are holding the fan at 45 degrees angle. Let's remove these. You will notice sometimes that the screws, since they are sitting in a rubber boot that prevents vibration, you will notice that sometimes they come out with a rubber boot. It kind of glues itself to the screw. It's not a big deal. You can detach the rubber boot and put it back into the hole and then put the screw back in. We pull out the fan just upwards very carefully. There is a connector in there, and the connector, to pull it out, you pull it this way slightly and upwards. So we give it some tension and goes up. No harm done. They are fairly fragile because they're so small. By pulling it right up, you can rip the contacts out, and then it's going to be a mess. There is another connector right here, which is for the front-facing LED. Same thing. Tension it and pull it up. Tension and come on, pull up. And usually they come out without any issues. Do not put too much tension, just tension it a little bit and then lift it up. You can use tweezers or screwdrivers to pry it off, but this thing is notorious for breaking because it's so small. All right, we got these two big screws, and let's see what size they are. They are T9, or you can use TR. These screws, because they have such big heads, are a little difficult to pry out, so give it some good twist. All right. Last is the power supply connector, and that one just comes right up. Okay, and we'll just leave it in there. To push the motherboard out, you just push on this heatsink and just give it a tap. And there you have it. Now that we have the motherboard removed, number one thing you want to check to make sure that there isn't any dust in the cooling system and in the fan. All right, we'll turn this aside, and these are smaller. We have 4 screws here that are, I believe they're T4. Yep, T4. We use T4 to get these out. And it always helps to have the screwdriver slightly magnetized so that the screws don't roll everywhere. We got the screws out. The cover, it's a shield, comes at the 45 degrees angle. No problem. This one is a little trickier to remove. If you pull on a rubber connector, rubber, I don't know what they call it, spacers, the chips pop out. We'll remove the chips. We put our new chips in there. Okay, we put both of them in, and then we kind of let the rubber out of the way. Click one, and see the rubber is getting caught. You gotta watch it. Click one, click two. Okay. So they go in basically at the same time. So you kind of, this is a little bit of a chore if you've never done it before. You have to keep the rubber out of the way, and you have to push the chips in. And assembly is reverse. You put the cover back on. If the shield does not go in, that means you didn't click the chips correctly. All right, we are good to reassemble our little computer. We put the screws back in. Always check to make sure that you're not cross-threading. If you're not sure about whether you're cross-threading, you go against the counterclockwise and center the screw in a hole, and then you go clockwise to basically tighten it. On the original assembly, they used thread locker, and the reason that they use a thread locker is they do not tighten the screws as tight as you can, and it is because these screws, believe it or not, are security screws too. The black screws will get shiny if you unscrew them. In order for them not to be shiny, the manufacturers use special screwdrivers, and they cannot torque it as hard as you can. This is done so that if you take it apart and then take it in for warranty, they know that the computer has been tampered with. And this is true not just for Apple, but for all computers. All right, we just put it back in, snap it in place. This holds a line. We're gonna put our connector back in, just make sure it clicks. Put this connector back in. It clicks. We're gonna put our screws back in. All right. Give it some good snug. All right. That's it for this. We put the fan back in. We put the connector first. Align it, click it. In my case, the screws kind of stayed in place, and just gonna tighten them back. If you ended up taking the screws out, magnetized screwdriver will help a lot by allowing it to hold the screws in place while you position them for putting back in. Okay. There are torque specifications on all these screws, manufacturers, but for this application, they're not critical. We're gonna put our antenna cable back in. And this one's a little tricky. You kind of have to do a lot of things at once. You hold this, you position it in place, and you find where it clicks. And once you have it in place, then you put the screw back in so it doesn't come off. This is probably the trickiest part of the whole project. There. Okay. Once that's in place, we're going to take our screw, and you can see that magnetized screwdriver helps quite a bit. We're going to align our hole with the holder, and we're going to close our shield. Big screw goes on top. Security screwdriver. Torx. Okay. We're gonna put the big ones in a triangle pattern. I would suggest testing the computer for operation before putting this back on. In fact, before even connecting the antenna, because if you mess something up, there is no reason to do this job twice. Click, click, click. The job is done. Hopefully this helps somebody save a few bucks. Give me a like if you like my videos, subscribe, enjoy, and if you have any questions, ask them down in the comments. Thank you for watching.